Welcome to our podcast, Resilient Heroes, where we are dedicated to showcasing the incredible journeys and contributions of women in the field of emergency management. I'm your host, Laura James. Hey, Resilient Heroes. Just a quick heads up that the sound quality on this episode is a little rough around the edges. But with the Building Linkages Emergency Management Symposium just around the corner here, we didn't want to keep this one on the shelf. So thanks for rolling with us, and we promise the content is still out of this world. Enjoy. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the podcast where we make space for women in emergency management. And I'm really excited to introduce you to today's guest. Cathy McGrath is the Emergency Management Coordinator for Niagara West Fire and Emergency Services. She is well known in the province of Ontario. She has been in emergency management for many years, and we're really excited to welcome you to the show. Welcome, Cathy.
Oh, thank you, Laura. Happy to be here.
So let's start at the beginning, as we do with all of our resilient heroes. What inspired you to pursue a career in emergency management?
Well, actually, emergency management was not something that I had any interest in or even knew existed when I was going through school and choosing my career. I, in fact, was focused more on human resources, so graduated with a BA in psychology and then transferred into a human resource role with Sobeys actually, and over the years completed my HR designation up into the leadership designation, and then along the way became an office coordinator with the Town of Grimsby Fire Department. And in that role, I was the admin support to the fire chief. I held an human resource capacity for fire department, and then had some input in managing the emergency management program for the Town of Grimsby. And it was really through working with the fire department that I really saw much interest in fire services and emergency services, and specifically the emergency management program, and shifted focus from human resources to emergency management, and currently in this role as the emergency management coordinator for the Niagara West Emergency Management Program, which actually includes the town of Lincoln, the town of Grimsby, the township of West Lincoln, and the township of Wainfleet.
Wow. So you really, like many of our resilient heroes, didn't start out in this field. You came from somewhere else and brought those skills with you. That's very interesting. And so you really come at it with a people-focused mindset when you are bringing yourself to work.
That's 100%. Cool. Yeah, and I think really the human resource backgrounds, just, about really working with people and, the training aspect of things and different levels of management has really helped prepare me for, just working with my emergency management team in building a strong program. So
that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, have there been, a particularly challenging or rewarding response that you were involved in that you think of regularly?
Yeah, I think coming into this role, there were a lot of challenges along the way just because my focus has changed and I didn't have the educational background like many do today in getting your BA or your master's in emergency management. So, just learning along the way through the more focused courses available or training sessions through the province. I would say one of the biggest challenges, but most rewarding, was my first EOC activation, being in charge of managing the activation from start to finish. And it was here in the town of Grimsby. It was a short activation, but it was one that really impacted the town with a downtown business on fire, which, impacted a lot to our downtown core. So, small municipalities, you have limited staff. So it's just really working with a smaller team to really support the emergency site and, kind of bring resolution to the issue. So, I think that what what ended up happening along the way, obviously, right at the beginning, it's taking those deep breaths and self-talk to myself that I know I can do it, and knowing that I had a lot of support, having built connections ahead of time and provided some training and so forth. So I would say that was probably my most challenging, being my first, but yet my most rewarding, because I knew that it was possible, right?
Yeah. And so that set you up for success in the future because you can do it. You did it. The first one's the worst one.
For sure. For sure. And then we hit COVID, which was obviously a very long event that everybody had to navigate through. So yeah, it's very time consuming, but again, most rewarding because we had a good team, right? Good teams, being that I supported more than one. So.
And tell me a little bit about the challenge of supporting multiple municipalities during something like a global pandemic. I know that I had that challenge as well. And ensuring that you are coordinating the messaging sort of across the board. Was that difficult for you? Did you have some tough days?
Yeah, I would say there was some tough days. Long days. Some of the challenges that with supporting multiple municipalities is you have very different leadership at the table. Right. So your meetings are not all going the same. There's depending on who's at the table, priorities are set a little bit differently. So it's really managing the various teams and the action plans moving forward were a little bit different. So a little bit tricky to kind of keep on top of where we're going.
Yeah. Exactly.
But again, it worked out really well.
And I think that experience is sort of unprecedented in that because it was such a long duration. And as emergency managers, we were considering so many things that are really, for us, outside of our traditional thought process, because it was such a heavily public health led response. But you're right in that every municipality that I worked with had, very different priorities and different ways of delivering the messages to the public, different ways of interacting with their local public. And for me, I found it really inspiring to take all those messages and bring them back. I was, at a regional government at the time, and bring them back to the region to share what was happening with the locals on the ground. And so I think the exposure that we get in these multiple municipality positions is really amazing. And the teams are so different. And what's the word I'm looking for? Inspiring in how they come up with their objectives and tactics at each different level. So I think that's very cool.
Yes, yeah. And I think part of the reason why there was different priorities at each municipality is the way legislation was written was gray and left to the interpretation of each individual municipality. So,
yep.
Some took a harder stand in following the rules a little bit more strictly, and others were looking at opportunities in which to kind of open up and allow more of the activities to continue, right? Just with their interpretation of how legislation was written. So that's sort of where some of the challenges came, is in the differences on how legislation was interpreted and how the municipalities or EOC management teams wanted to proceed with action plans. So
it's funny because, we all know the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act like the back of our hand. That's our job. But suddenly I felt, and you tell me how you felt, I felt like every Friday between 1:00 and 2:00 there was a provincial announcement, and now suddenly Friday evening and Saturday is spent deciphering the messaging and trying to figure out what it all means for all of us. So Fridays became the day.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the day we pivoted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, 100%. Oh boy.
So I'm gonna
Thank goodness that's over.
Yes. Thank goodness it's over. But I wouldn't change some of the lessons learned for us. I think, it was very helpful. And as an emergency manager, I'm actually pretty proud that, not that we had a pandemic, obviously, but I'm proud that the Ontario public, really, they became experts in the legislation as well. And for most of them, they probably had never heard of the act before, right? And suddenly we had a very involved public who was asking questions, reading the legislation, trying to understand what that meant for them. So as much as I wouldn't want something like that to repeat, it was really the first time that something impacted everyone across the province and really pulled them into our daily business. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, very good point, Laura.
Yeah. And that, that leaves generations of Ontarians who really kind of understand this business and what we do, which I would say didn't exist before. So I think that's very cool.
Yes.
So, Cathy, a question I often ask our resilient heroes, and so they can share their own experiences with other resilient heroes out there, is have you faced gender bias in the field of emergency management? And if you have, how did you navigate it?
Well, actually, I've been very lucky in this regard, as I really have not faced any gender bias in the field. Coming into the fire service back in 2008, transitioning to the role of an office coordinator in a world that really is predominantly male. I felt heard. I felt like I was part of the team. I felt like I had a lot to contribute. I was asked for my opinions on things. I feel all in all across the board that I didn't experience the gender bias. And when I think back to, as a young mom with young children, working full time, as you know, and them involved in a lot of extracurricular activities and competitive sports, it's very stressful in trying to navigate both. It got to the point where I made a decision with my husband that I was going to leave the fire service, and it was my manager at the time, Fire Chief Michael Kane, who I really do owe a lot of thanks and gratitude for the fact that I'm in the position that I am today. So when I did have that meeting to, provide my resignation, he really did take the opportunity to ask about my dreams and my goals and, what is it that Cathy would like to see for her career. And, and the ability to offer more of a flexible work environment so that I could manage both my personal and work life. So, I think that was really what, guided me to the position I am today. I felt very supported by him in my career. And currently in my current role as being an emergency management coordinator, my fire chief, Greg Hudson, also very supportive and, really does value my input. So I have been very lucky.
You have, and that sounds amazing. Not only that you had that internal conversation in your family to talk about the challenges that you were facing, but then you felt free to bring it to the table for a discussion and ended up finding a mentor and a solution to the issues that you had. So that's also a fantastic experience to share with others, that when you face challenges, and as we do, talking about it, communicating with your own family, but also with your colleagues, can help you find the solution that you might not be able to find on your own.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it really does make a difference.
To all the mentors out there, what a great question to ask somebody who's at a pivotal point of their career and making change, because I think a lot of us don't think about ourselves first. And so I love that he asked you that question, and clearly it was a change in trajectory for you in that moment, and then clearly led you here today. So that is something very unique. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I think that was very fortunate that you had that mentor at that time. And is he still a mentor?
He's no longer in the role. In fact, he's I guess retired at this time. But I always look up to him. So he's just a phone call away if I need him. I know that for sure.
I like that. It's mentorship is sort of a lifelong learning. And I actually interviewed somebody on Friday for Resilient Heroes. And she said she likes to think of mentorship as continuing professional development, because really, at every phase of our careers, we have mentors or we mentor. And I thought to myself, I've never put it in the bucket of professional development, but I think that's a great way for women to start thinking about it. It's not just a thing you choose to do or not do, or mandated by your organization that you mentor people, but it should be our own professional development. So I think that's a very cool thread, new thread for Resilient Heroes to pull through. And your story really adds to that. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. I like that too, perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how emergency management can be emotionally taxing. And you sort of alluded to this a moment ago when you said, you had little kids, your partner was traveling. How can you do it all? Your communities depend on you. And, there's so much in EM that we're not in control of: the weather, the pandemics that may hit us. All of really the things that we're on call to do are not something that we can plan for 80% of the time. So, how do you deal with the fact that it can be emotionally taxing, that we have long days? More and more in the last decade, we hear discussions around mental health and putting yourself first before you arrive to work. But I also know that for Resilient Heroes, many of us have that get up and go personality, and we want to be there for our staff and our communities. So how do you cope during the tough days? And then what do you do for yourself to ensure that you're practicing some kind of self-care for Cathy?
Yeah, work for everyone is stressful these days. There's lots going on, and I think in the world of emergency management, I think for me, that's my full-time job, whereas, our other staff are doing a full-time position and then filling in roles of emergency response when an activation is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it can be quite stressful, just, thinking of COVID and the amount of time supporting multiple municipalities, long days and so forth. So I think at this point I have a supportive family, so they understand what my job is and when I'll be called to task and, what's required with that. I have supported staff. I'm sorry, a supported boss who is really there when I need him, and is quite daily provides some comic relief, which is kind of fun.
So critical of emergency management.
Yeah. So that's good. For me, I do like to balance my life, personal and work. So I do make time for carving out time for myself. I like spending time with my family, number one. I enjoy shopping, time with my friends, just walking. I've been going for, I have coworkers and friends where we walk on our lunch hour, just helps to clear the mind. Very social and just, yoga here and there, those types of things. But now that my children are older, they're adults, I have more time to kind of focus more on myself as well. So pretty much how it goes these days.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. It's something I certainly struggle with, and I think many of us do. And you're right, regardless of the field. But it's super important that we can bring our best to work every day. Now, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions because you have been around for a while. So for those folks who are new to emergency management or looking to shift into emergency management, what advice would you give to those women who are looking to get started in the field?
Well, first of all, I'd say 100% do it.
Do it.
Do it. It's a great field. You're working with some amazing people. The world of emergency response, albeit has some negatives as well, but I just think that it's such a energizing field. I don't know. I feel like it's a good network of people. I think that you just need to be fearless and determined. If it's something that you truly find interesting, as far as getting into the field, really build that strong network of people and the mentors that we talked about to help you succeed along the way, right? Don't be afraid to take on challenges and really push yourself outside your comfort zone. There's just so much. I mean, emergency management is ever evolving, and it's about keeping up with the new tools and technologies that will help you to achieve success, and working on some improved strategies and so forth. So, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great field. It's a great field to get in, and with um, a lot of different avenues to go for. You've got the training and exercising. If you're in a larger corporation, there's so much more kind of divisions of emergency management. You can find a place for yourself. But even not just at the municipal level, like I just find that this is becoming a focus in a lot of our private sector organizations, right? Everybody's impacted by disasters and emergencies, and are doing risk management and determining, where, and business continuity, so there's just so many avenues to take.
And you and I were chatting about this last week that, it really, after the pandemic, really every vertical, every industry is looking towards business continuity and, emergency planning. So the field has really opened up in a way that I couldn't have imagined before COVID, and the ability to connect virtually has allowed that to open up so much wider. And I love that, because that means as municipal staff, we have a much broader network of people to reach out to. And suddenly we have those connections to supply chain, to the healthcare system. And we're making those connections across all of those verticals. And it's just bringing us together to create more resilience for our communities. And you and I just chatted about that last week. So I totally agree. There's a place for everyone, regardless of what you're interested in. So you just have to be open to those opportunities.
Yes, for sure.
Now let's talk about leadership qualities. I know this is hard for me and you. Sometimes recognizing that we have been in the field for a long time, that comes with a great deal of experience because we've lived through a lot of responses and seen a lot of things throughout Canada and North America. So talk to me a little bit about what leadership qualities you think are essential for women in EM or business continuity, and how have you developed those for yourself over the years?
I think strong communication skills are important. It's important that you're comfortable in really reaching out and communicating, and developing those networks, getting in front of people. Communication is about, you have to train and develop staff, and, really get in front and sharing important messages and so forth. So, in that regard, I have taken opportunities to push myself outside my comfort zone and get in front of some public speaking events so that I can build stronger confidence with that. And I was just mentioning to you recently that I did Norwex selling on the side. So Norwex is a home business where you sell product to people in their homes. So I would get in front of a small group of 10 or 12 people and explain the product and try to sell the safer, cleaner product material, cleaning materials, which just gave me more of a comfort zone speaking in front of people who I don't know about a product, or about a product that I'm familiar with. So it's like getting in front of people and sharing my experience as an emergency manager, and just feeling more comfortable with that. So that's helped me to build those skills. Also is what else? Resilience. I think it's important that you have the ability to be resilient, to be able to bounce back after some setbacks. So, I embrace these challenges of opportunities for growth. So helping with my mental toughness. the self-care and taking time for myself. So that's just helped me to kind of reassess if I've had any setbacks and what I can do to do it better the next time, and not be too down about failure, and really be just more focused on improvements in high stressful situations. Yeah, and be adaptable. In emergency management, there's it's ever-changing circumstances, right? So it's pretty vital to be able to be adaptable and move and pivot and just to be flexible, right? So, and that just comes from experience and over the years, just recognizing that we're going to have to shift, and you have to be okay with change and being flexible. So, so over the years, I feel like that skill has improved for me just on the various situations that I faced.
That is, I would say, one of the biggest qualities that we need is the ability to be flexible, to understand that a lot of the time our day is not our own. And, all of our plans that we work on in an emergency response, they're only as good as the response is static. So that means that this plan is as great as this moment in time. And then if something shifts on the ground, then we shift as well. And that takes a different type of mindset. And it is definitely something that we have to work to develop, because I'm someone who is a planner at the core. So I like a list. I like to know what I'm doing. And it has taken me a long time to be able to be flexible in the moment and understand that the plans are a guideline and they may go out the window, and there's a lot of gray area in every day. So I think I would also say that being a mom helped me a little with that rigidity, right? Because nothing ever goes as planned.
No, that's so true. That's true. Yeah.
So now I want to focus on something that is very close to your heart, and I'm really excited to share it with our Resilient Heroes listeners, because it is truly one of the most fantastic events that we have here in the province of Ontario. So tell me a little bit, Cathy, about the Building Linkages in Emergency Management Symposium.
Well, thank you very much for your kind words on this event. I'm super excited with it, and I do agree it is one of the best, or the best in Ontario. Building Linkages in Emergency Management is a conference that we had started back in 2019. Mm-hmm. Really, it was about bringing forward some unfortunate emergencies that had happened in various communities across the country, and bringing it to emergency managers or those in the field of emergency response, sharing the emergency and lessons learned, so that emergency managers, responders can go back and just build a better program based on these emergencies to be better prepared if it were to happen in their communities. So we try to bring forward some incidents that involve hazards that are quite common to Ontario. In 2020, we couldn't hold the event due to COVID. We brought it back in 2024 with great success. So this year, on June 3rd and 4th, Building Linkages in Emergency Management will be happening at the Holiday Inn in St. Catharines at 327 Ontario Street. We have 8 speakers lined up to share their experiences and lessons learned. If you like, I can go through the topics.
I think that would be amazing.
Is there time for that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have the Manager of Emergency Management from the City of Mississauga, Ben Gallagher. He's going to talk about two rainstorms that they had in 1 month, lessons learned from back-to-back 100-year storms. And basically in this situation, the rain had ended up flooding throughout the city, requiring the city and its residents to respond to one storm while recovering from the first. So he's going to provide an overview of the impacts these storms had on the city, how the city's team responded, and the lessons learned both from the response and recovery to the events. We also have Shauna Bruce, director and owner of MD Bruce and Associates Limited. She is going to present on the human-centered crisis communications, building trust and resilience in emergencies. Really looking and sharing that, we know that effective communication is paramount to crisis to ensure public safety and maintain trust. So her presentation is going to delve into human aspects of crisis communications, emphasizing strategies that prioritize empathy, clarity, and community engagement. Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift was a big tour, came to the city of Toronto. And this actually became a big role of the Toronto Emergency Management team, planning for the 6 concert dates. Mark Fair is the coordinator of operations with Toronto Emergency Management. And with that, there was numerous command posts, and enhanced command and control process was adopted. So he will take us through the planning and the activation and response to the tour.
I cannot wait for that one, just so you know, because I'm a Swiftie. And if ever there was a time to work for Toronto EM, that would have been the time for me. That would be that would have been amazing. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. It's not dissimilar to what we're going to be planning for FIFA when it hits the GTA. So really interesting session.
Yes, I do believe it'll be just looking from, really applicable to large scale events, like you said, right? Yeah, so I think that will be some good learnings from that one. Carrie Lapoudre and Lynn Henderson are going to be presenting from Red Cross on Beyond Standard for ESS, Emergency Social Services, addressing health needs and impacts before and during emergencies. So as we know, Red Cross is there to support with evacuation sites and so forth during emergencies. So we're going to learn about various approaches and experiences addressing health needs and impacts before, during emergencies and evacuations. And just recently in Peterborough, we had the ice storm, which you also experienced in your area.
I did.
So Jody DeNovo, who oversees emergency management in Peterborough, is going to bring to us just a walkthrough of what happened for their team in the city and lessons learned with that during a declared emergency with the ice storm. Fantastic. So that pretty much sums up day 1. And then on day 2, we have Christine Blair, Mayor of Colchester, Nova Scotia, leadership in the aftermath of a mass casualty. And her presentation focuses on the unfortunate violent acts of one man impersonating the RCMP, including the use of a replica police car. Devastating rampage left 22 people and 1 unborn child dead. And Christine will share her experience and lessons learned in the aftermath of that tragic event. And then following her is Karen Collins, Senior Director, Safety, Security, and Emergency Management for the British Columbia Institute of Technology, responding to mass victimization incidents, a victim-centered community approach. So she'll provide attendees with an overview of the key components required for an effective, ethical, victim-centered response to a mass victimization incident resulting from mass terror or mass violence. So a really good follow-up to Christine Blair, Mayor Blair. And then we're going to end it with a keynote speaker, Jody Urquhart. So not emergency management focused. However, as emergency managers in highly stressful situations, we just feel like it's important to bring some, training to individuals on how to navigate mastering human connection. So really looking at leadership qualities, how one might be struggling, and what kind of tips and tools can help the individuals. So Jody is a keynote speaker, motivational speaker, and she's also a comedian. So it's going to be a great way to end the session, especially following a pretty heavy morning session with Mayor Blair and Karen. And it'll really be a good way to kind of wrap up the conference and leave on a positive note for personal growth and development. And Yeah, so I'm super excited about. We have a networking event on the first night. So really, it's just an opportunity for everybody to get together, play some interactive games, sort of like the minute-to-minute games that we've seen on TV years ago. So a really good social setting there. And yeah, networking. One of the main reasons of this event is networking. We don't have concurrent sessions. Everybody attends the same sessions. We're all in the same room. Our key sponsors, our sponsors, who our higher level sponsors, have their information available inside our conference room. They're part of the presentations. It's highly engaged. So super excited about it, and registration is still open.
Thank you for sharing that, Cathy. And thank you for making this symposium happen. I know that putting together an event like this is really a time suck, and also, takes over your life a little bit as we move closer and closer to it. But I can tell you, having attended all of them so far and looking forward to this year's symposium that's coming up in June, that it really is a signature event in the province, and the speakers that you bring together are second to none. I will give a plug for the social events as well. Really fun to do something, outside of work with EMs that you don't necessarily get to see all the time. So I have made friends for life from the 2019 session. So just to say that you've really put it together a substantial event that many of us look forward to. We will link to registration in the show notes as well. And Cathy, I look forward to seeing you at this year's event. I thank you for putting so much of yourself into coordinating it for us, for everybody in Southern Ontario. If you haven't been, check it out while there's still space. And Cathy, I want to thank you so much for sharing some insights into your career with us. And I hope you join us again one day in the future. Can I provide your contact information in our show notes in case anyone has questions or would like to reach out to you?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Laura, for the platform to share my story, and for your ongoing support with our conference. Yeah, thank you for everything. I look forward to seeing you in June.
You too. Have a great week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Buffalo Computer Graphics. All content is for informational purposes only. Are you or someone you know a resilient hero and would be interested in contributing to our podcast? We would love to hear from you. Please contact us at RHpodcast@buffalocomputergraphics.com.